Hello everyone, welcome back to Krita Studios. We are going to do a methodology video and this one is going to be linked in all our reviews, so you can always come back and take a look. This is going to be sort of in two parts. The first one, we'll introduce all the components that we are going to use, the ones that are going to remain constant apart from the one that is being changed, that is being tested. And in the second part, we are going to take you through the process. First, we have the processor Ryzen 7 3700X. Why is it important for our test bench? Because of the TDPs. If you overclock it, it is going to be putting out a decent amount of heat, which is good for pushing the CPU coolers that we'll be testing and the cases that we'll be testing for airflow and temperature readings. Our test bench comprises of a Deepcool AK620. It's a twin tower and twin fan cooler, and it has really good performance, and you can get it for around 5,000 bucks. 5,000 is a decent budget for a cooler, so that is why we went with the Deepcool AK620. Now we are going to talk about the motherboard. We have the MSI B450 Gaming Plus Max. For the most part, it's a decent board, good power delivery, decent number of ports and all of that you need, and for around 10,000 bucks, it's a good deal. We have the G.Skill Ripjaws V 3600 MHz CL18 memory. We have 4 sticks of 8 GB each for a total of 32 gigs of RAM, because flexing is important. The next thing that we have installed on the motherboard is our SSD. We have a Gigabyte NVMe 500 gigabytes. It has our OS and a few games. Talking about storage, we also have a 1TB Crucial MX500 SATA SSD. And then for bulk storage, we have a Seagate Barracuda 2TB and a Western Digital Blue 1TB. On to the next major component, our graphics card. We have a Aorus Master 3060 Ti. It's a very good card, and around 230 to 240 watts of power it consumes when under full load. So in terms of TDP as well, it is a great graphics card. We are going to be limited to 1080p because of our monitor, because we do not have any 1440p or 4K options at the moment. And it's a good deal as well, because if you lower the graphics settings, you can increase frame rate high enough on 1080p to push all sorts of processors to their limits. Now, powering all our components is the Corsair RM750X. It's a fully modular power supply, 80 plus gold rated. For the most part, it does the job. Now we are going to talk about the little things that we need for consistency. First, the thermal paste. Noctua NT-H1 is what we have, and this is what we are going to be using in all our tests. We have to have standardized fans, and for that we have chosen 120mm fans, 3 of them, Arctic P12 PWM fans. So 2 will be placed as intakes and 1 as exhaust. So that is going to be a standard setup in all kinds of testing and in testing cases as well. So the important topic is, do we test on an open bench or do we test inside a case? First, we ran our torture test on an open bench. Then we recorded the data, the maximum temperature and all of that. Then we built, then we transferred all our components inside a case, ran a torture test again, compiled the data. Then we took away all the panels that we could from our case in order to simulate an open bench situation. And again, we went through the torture test, recorded all the data. Now, between the open bench and the case, there was a difference of 6 to 7 degrees, which is significant, and it is bound to be that way. But when we removed all the panels from our case, the recordings that we had for the maximum temperature were much closer to the open bench. So we can test our components inside a case, but in a manner that it feels like they're on an open bench. We have a Fractal Design Meshify S2. Why did we choose this case? First, because it's really large. Can house all types of air coolers and liquid coolers, 480s, 360s, you name it. Now, another thing about this case is, now I talked about removing the panels to simulate more of an open bench situation, and in this case we can do that because the front panel can be removed, the top panel can be removed, all the dust filters can be removed, and the side window, which is transparent or tempered glass, can be removed as well. So we get as close to an open bench as possible without the components actually being on an open bench. Temperature testing, we keep the ambient temperature constant at 24 degrees Celsius, and then From that, we get the delta temperature that we represent on our graph. First of all, the processor. We leave it in its stock form with precision, boost overdrive enabled and all of that. And that goes for our Cinebench R23, FurMark, and then 3D Mark as well. So once that is done, we, the component that we are testing, it undergoes a torture test. It could be a case, it could be a graphics card, it could be a CPU cooler, it could be a CPU. Torture test as in, we overclock our processor, 4.2 gigahertz, and in that state it puts out a lot of heat. And then we run Cinebench R23 and Unigine Heaven Valley together for 10 minutes, and then we record the maximum temperature and all of that, and that gives us a good idea of how the component would fare if pushed to the limits. Once that is done, we move on to our torture test, which gives us the final readings, the extreme readings. Now the torture test is not really necessary because for the most part, if you're gaming and all of that, it is not going to push your components to those limits, but it is still good to test the components at their limits as well. We record our data using hardware info. It gives us a wide variety of data, power consumption, clocks, temperature and all of that. So hardware info is running in the background for all these tests that we talked about, and we log the data. Then it is exported in the form of a CSV file, which can be accessed in Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets. Then we simply go to the relevant rows, take the average of the data that we have recorded, and then average it out with the 2 runs that we do for each test, and that gives us the data that we use to plot the graphs. So we have talked about the testing methodology. Now there are a lot of things that can be talked about when it comes to testing components. How do we keep the temperature, the ambient temperature constant, bottlenecking, and why there is a need for a constant ambient temperature. Why do we use delta temperature to represent the data when it comes to testing of PC components? All of these topics are really diverse, and we'll try to cover them in some more videos, separate videos, specific videos on these topics. But for the most part, for this video, our testing methodology, this is it. If you like the content, like the video, share it, subscribe it, press the notification icon if you want to, and